NLP language. This is from the distortion section, and it's cause and effect. One of the language patterns is cause and effect. You may be interested in this video if you are an NLP practitioner or you're studying for an NLP practitioner. You're just maybe interested in the NLP language patterns. The idea that being at cause is useful goes back far beyond NLP, of course. William James, the 19th century medical doctor, suffered from severe depression. Graduating as a medical doctor at the age of 27 only left him more depressed and anguished about the pointlessness of his life, which seemed predetermined and empty. In 1870, he made the philosophical breakthrough that enabled him to pull himself out of his depression. This was the realization that different beliefs have different consequences. James had been puzzling for some time about whether human beings had a genuine free will, or whether their actions were the deterministic results of genetic and environmental influences. He now realized that such questions were insoluble, and that the more important issue was which beliefs have the most useful consequences for the believer. The belief in free will allowed him to consider alternatives to act and to plan. Describing the brain as an instrument of possibilities, he decided, at any rate, I will assume for the present, that is until next year, that it is no illusion. And my first act of free will shall be to believe in free will. I will go a step further with my will, not only act with it, but believe as well. Believe in my individual reality and creative power. His depression lifted, and James went on to become the central figure in the development of scientific psychology. Now, I think this sense about cause and effect, being at cause or being at effect, is central to NLP philosophy or background. I think it's really important, because a lot of NLP is about moving forward, planning and moving forwards and looking at what we want. And if life is predetermined and we have no control over what we want, what is the point of doing that? So I think it's really central. So I think it's more than just one of the language patterns in NLP. I think it's central to NLP overall. So, as usual with these videos, I've got some examples of cause and effect patterns. So in NLP, what we would be wanting to do would be somehow move people more towards cause and away from effect. Now, that is not easy. As you will know, if a person feels that they are a victim of circumstance, to accuse them of being a victim of circumstance is not really going to help them. It has to be more a move in the direction of what they can achieve. And that's what we're trying to do when we question their language in NLP. So if I'm thinking cause and effect, I might say something like, the weather gets me down. The weather gets me down. So if you think about that, there is no suggestion that I am in some way responsible and at cause in my experience. The implication is that the weather is doing it to me. But in a way, even more likely is that somebody else is doing it to me. For example, you make me feel worthless. That's terrible, isn't it? You make me feel worthless. And can you imagine that I could be in a position where I actually believe that? Where I actually believe that my feelings are somehow caused by other people. if you believe that your feelings are caused by other people, then it's very, very difficult to have an effect on that. Okay, and then sometimes we get a kind of implied cause, which I think is quite interesting, like I'm bored. If I say I'm bored, I think my implication is that the people I'm with are not being sufficiently interesting, so I'm bored. So I don't say I'm bored because you lot are boring, but that's what's implied. Or another phrase which implies that the cause is somewhere outside of myself is I feel trapped. That's interesting, isn't it? Are you actually in prison? Are you actually trapped? Have you actually walked through the forest and fallen down into a bear trap? In which case I am trapped would be a valid thing to say. But I feel trapped is putting a cause outside of oneself. So this is quite a deep one in a way, as you can probably tell. It's quite an important one. And ways that we might question it might be to look at, does this cause always produce this effect? If I say my boss makes me angry, that is, my boss makes me angry, that is, he is making me angry, it might be worth considering, does everybody get angry when they are with the boss, or is it just me? And then we know, we have a clue then more about what to do about that situation. But once I am saying it is the boss who is making me angry, there's really nothing I can do about that situation. And also the truth of life, I think, is that there are many causes, there are many factors. If I'm not happy, there are probably many factors influencing that, not just one. It's unlikely to be your fault, or the fault of my environment, or the fault of this, or the fault of that. It's likely to be a combination of things which is creating a state in me, resulting in unhappiness. So that's what we're talking about cause and effect. And we're looking to, I think with some care, unpick that when somebody suggests that the cause is outside of themselves. And my tip for this week is we just have that idea of responsibility inside ourselves, so that when people are speaking to us as if they are not responsible, we just encourage them towards a position where maybe they feel that they have choice.